It's a new year, a new second half of a decade, even. But with the end of 2024, we saw the release of Sonic the Hedgehog 3, the movie, not to be confused with the game or Sonic 3 and Knuckles, more specifically. And I have made it very clear that I am a huge fan of the Sonic franchise. Recently, though, for some reason, conservative grifters have found Sonic as, I guess, an appropriate or easy target to attack for either being too woke and thinking that that would, like, get the fan base up in arms against Sega or Paramount or something like that, or in the case of people like Matt Walsh, have released infamous reviews such as Sonic the Hedgehog 3, the movie that broke me as a father. Hey everyone, my name's Christian Verstappen, and I have a lot to say about many things. I want to talk about this insane review and kind of just, well, I mean, I kind of just want to make fun of it as a fan of Sonic. I watched it for like a minute, and I was like, all right, I gotta talk about this. I recently, several months, 2 months ago now, I had responded to this guy who I thought this was a kid, like someone younger. Apparently, he's older than me. He's like in his 30s or something. But this guy basically got mad that the infamous wedding scene that most fans, including myself, agree was terrible in the second Sonic movie. This guy basically thinks the only reason that scene was there in the first place was so they could like shoehorn in black people or some bullshit like that. The scene was bad because it wasn't funny, it dragged on too long, it had nothing to do with any of the characters that fans or probably even general audiences were there for. There are a lot of reasons the scene sucked, but it had nothing to do with the fact that like it was black people, like that. It was ridiculous. But now we're going to be responding to this. Now, I know there's at least one other person, I think their name is SK, who did a like debunking, if you will, of this. I haven't actually seen it. I do know that that person in general seems to do pretty good. I think what they do is they find like terrible reviews of good media that they like, and they basically just passionately defend it. You know, kind of like there was a time where I know Game Apologists did this, and I think some other people, where they would like look at terrible reviews from IGN of Sonic games, funnily enough, and would kind of like debunk those. I thought of doing that kind of thing myself, but I really am trying to just get out of negativity, at least not as frequently, which is a big part of why I started doing the Rambling Reviews series, which I actually did go through the first two Sonic games at the time of this recording. That's all I've done so far, but we'll get through the rest of it. It's my favorite franchise. I plan on going through the games, the comics, all that stuff, but including the movies, which is what we're here to discuss today. So let's get into, without further ado, why Matt Walsh hates this so much.
When a man becomes a father, he's called upon to make sacrifices for his family. And often these will be small sacrifices. Sometimes they'll be larger, though, more significant. And on even rarer occasion, the duties of fatherhood will require him to make the kind of sacrifice that up to that moment, he would have thought himself incapable of making. These are the moments when a man must become a hero, when he must lay his very life on the line. And this may take many forms. Perhaps he's rushing into a burning building to rescue his child from the fire. Perhaps he has to pull his loved one away from the path of a speeding train because they've been tied to the tracks by bandits or whatever. Or most harrowing of all, he may be compelled by his paternal obligations to go to a movie theater and watch Sonic the Hedgehog 3. Now, a man in that situation...
Okay, so the first thing about this, obviously the concept of, families going to see movies that are more so made for kids, and kids kind of, parents kind of feeling they're being dragged along by their kids to see this movie because their kid wants to see it, but they're not really that interested. That's not really a new thing, right? That's just kind of a common thing parents tend to have to do because, a kid can't get into a theater alone to see it or whatever. So if they want to see Sonic the Hedgehog or the newest DreamWorks or Pixar movie or whatever, and the parent isn't interested in it, then they're, yeah, okay. This is a big part of reason why a lot of, movies like, Shrek and stuff, for example, had a lot of like adult jokes and stuff, because it's there to like, for one, entertain the audience. And I think it works as something too, where like you can look back at these shows as a kid and you're like, oh wow, those are jokes we don't get until we're older. You know what I mean? So like, I personally like that kind of stuff. I know there are some kind of more I would say prudish people that are not a fan of more adult jokes in like children's media. I think it's fine. I think media that's family friendly, sneaking in that stuff every now and then is fine. Not to say that this movie really did that. That's just pointing out that studios are aware, generally speaking, that yes, parents are going to see these movies and they might not really be interested in them that much. So here's this thing that's like for them as well, so they're interested. So point is this isn't like a new phenomenon Matt Walsh is dealing with or anything.
Situation would, of course, much prefer to be engulfed in flames or hit by a speeding train, but that would be the coward's way out. He endures Sonic the Hedgehog 3 for the sake of his children, whom he loves. And over Christmas break, that is precisely the situation that I found myself in. Now, for the record, I'll say I greatly enjoyed most of the time that I spent with my wife and kids these past 2 weeks. We had a lot of fun together. We played football, we played outside, we shot BB guns, we played card games and board games. I completely wrecked my whole family in Monopoly 2 nights in a row. Wasn't even close.
Okay, I'm glad that. Okay, I'm a little bit concerned about how he's kind of like. It sounds like he's talking about his family like he doesn't see them often. I don't know. I'm kind of getting like divorced dad energy. I don't know if he is divorced or what the deal is with that, but like he kind of comes off as like, oh, I hate my wife, I hate my kids kind of thing. So I'm glad that he did say that he spent time with his family and enjoyed it, because it was getting very close to that territory of like, I just hate my family kind of thing. So I'm glad it wasn't that, at least.
We took the kids ice skating. I was ice skating. My wife and kids were left dumbstruck by my gracefulness and elegance on the ice. They didn't say that, but I know they were thinking it. These were all wonderful experiences. Yet things took a rather distressing turn on the final Thursday of the break when my 8-year-old son and 5-year-old daughter asked me to take them to go see Sonic the Hedgehog 3. And I did. God help me. God help me. I did. Now, before I offer my brief review of this thing that I hesitate to call a film, I must first acknowledge, in all fairness, I never saw Sonic the Hedgehog 1 or Sonic the Hedgehog 2.
Okay. You never saw either of the first 2 movies. You're not a fan of the franchise. You're just explaining you have no idea what you're talking about. Continue, I guess.
It's possible that one cannot fully appreciate the narrative complexities of Sonic the Hedgehog 3 without having seen the first 2 chapters in this epic Hedgehog saga. Maybe the other 2 movies are works of staggering artistic genius that would elevate the 3rd installment and lend it the sort of context necessary for me to have appreciated it and enjoyed it, instead of feeling like I was being waterboarded with high fructose corn syrup the whole time. But I doubt it.
Not exactly. I will say, both as a fan of the Sonic franchise and even just as someone who enjoys media in general, I would say the first one was a perfectly fine, like, family film, road trip movie that happened to have Sonic in it. The second one was actually a good Sonic movie. The third one was so much better. Oh my god, the third one was incredible. I saw it opening night. Not opening... Well, was it opening night? Well, no, I saw it... technically, movies come out on Friday, but they open on Thursday night. So I saw it Friday night with a buddy of mine. And we had a great time. It was funny because he actually kind of wanted to see it and was more excited more than me. And I'm the lifelong Sonic fan, but either way, it was an incredibly good film.
I mean, this is the kind of movie where Jim Carrey plays 2 characters. One is the evil villain, and the other is the evil villain's evil grandfather in old age makeup. And the 2 break into an impromptu dance routine that makes no narrative sense but lasts approximately 87 minutes.
Jim Carrey has played multiple characters many times. Pretty sure in my favorite adaptation of The Christmas Carol, the one starring him, he played multiple characters. It was a marketing point in Lemony Snicket's Unfortunate Events that he was all these different characters, as well as Count Olaf, I want to say his name is. I remember the trailer, it would say like Jim Carrey, Jim Carrey, Jim Carrey, and Jim Carrey. It was a funny like selling point that he played so many different characters. Jim Carrey has done this kind of thing before. Which, by the way, I will say, for those that haven't seen the movie, there is a joke about him being 2 characters, and it's a little bit trite, a little bit, but I don't know, it's fine. The movie in general was fine, was great. All right, let's continue with seeing Matt Walsh's issues.
It's the kind of movie where those same characters before the dance routine actually look directly into the camera and explain that they're being played by the same actor.
Yes, it's a fourth wall tongue-in-cheek joke. That's kind of what... Okay, go on.
I must assume, and I think assume safely, that there's nothing in the other two films that would make this one any less obnoxious or horrifically stupid. I'm not going to bother explaining the.
Actually, yes, there's a lot that would make it less obnoxious. The fact that the first one was way more obnoxious than the second one, and the third one was just so much better than the second one or the first one. The second one was fine, but you know, or I should say, first one was fine. I have no desire to ever go back and see the first one. It was passable. Second one was legitimately good. I mean, I will see the first one when I like do the review for it, but first one was fine. Second one was really good. You know, like I said, and third one was just. It is definitely the best. I know it's not exactly a high bar, but it is absolutely the best video game movie we have ever had. Like, I know the Mario movie was really good and people loved it, and it was great, but Sonic 2 was the best video game movie before the Mario movie, and now this is the best video game movie after the Mario movie. I would say it's still, because it still works really well as a film on its own. It has good gripping character. The fact that it, you know, adapted Sonic Adventure 2, one of the most beloved stories in the Sonic fan base and the franchise and everything, is a big part of why it was so successful. But yeah, I mean, it was just really good. I apologize for kind of speaking in very vague terms like that and just saying, oh, it was really good, it was this, it was that, because I'm not trying to make this a spoiler review. That'll come like as its own thing, but for this, I just want to go over Matt's critiques, for lack of a better word, specifically here.
Plot of this film in any detail. I wasn't tracking it that closely, to be honest. I was mostly fighting to stay awake. This is the kind of movie that bores you to the point of putting you to sleep, but also annoys you at the same time. It's kind of an odd combination to be both sleepy and deeply irritated simultaneously. As for the plot, I can only tell you that Sonic is the good hedgehog, which you may know. There's also an evil hedgehog voiced by Keanu Reeves, who, and I like Keanu Reeves, by the way, but like every other voice actor in this film and most voice actors in most children's films that have been made for the past 20 years, he has no talent as a voice actor and doesn't understand how to act with just your voice. But he's famous, so that's good enough, I suppose.
Okay, you know what? I'll give Matt 1 point. He's right that Hollywood's obsession with putting voice actors as like famous people that might not necessarily be good voice actors as voice actors in animated movies and stuff is a big problem, and that's been going on since the 2000s with like DreamWorks, I would say. Yeah, it is a huge problem. It takes jobs away from voice actors who don't do anything except voice acting. There's a lot of issues with it. I highly doubt Matt cares about those kind of things, though. He just wants to bitch and moan, of course.
So Sonic has to stop the evil hedgehog and his evil cohorts. That's the Jim Carrey dancing duo I mentioned earlier.
Actually, it's funny. Okay, first of all, Jim Carrey plays Dr. Ivo Robotnik, also known as Dr. Eggman, and Dr. Gerald Robotnik. And I really want to go into more, but I don't want to spoil it. See the movie if you haven't, it's great. No. Well, wait. Is he gonna spoil it? What did he say? Kind of. I mean, yes, the space colony arc, the whole point is that... Okay, I don't... Should I get into spoiler territory? I don't know. Okay. So, yes, what they are activating in the film and in Sonic Adventure 2, as it's based on, is the Space Colony arc, which has a death laser, essentially. It has what's called the Eclipse Cannon that they are using to point to the Earth to destroy it. Now, in Sonic Adventure 2, Robotnik, being Eggman, not Ivo, directly threatens that, essentially, he blows up half the moon, which is where the meme from Snapcube, real-time Sonic fan dubs, I pissed on the moon comes from. And basically, once he blows up half the moon, he threatens to the President of the United States in 3 days. I think it's 3 days? No, 48 hours. He says, you have 48 hours to give me your answer. In 2 days, he's going to destroy the world unless they surrender to the Eggman Empire. Now, in the movie, they didn't exactly go that route. They did go the route where, yes, they are having the Eclipse Cannon pointed toward Earth and getting ready to destroy it, but it works a little bit different. I'm not going to say how it works differently, because, again, I don't want to spoil it, but it works a little bit different, and Okay, let's just. It's really hard to like kind of go against what Matt's saying here without spoiling, but all right.
From blowing up the world with a big laser. And this has been the evil plan of every evil villain in every blockbuster franchise film for the past 3 decades. It's a formula that this movie is not interested in deviating from. This is not the sort of movie that deviates from formulas. Now, if you're wondering why the evil hedgehog and the two Jim Carreys want to explode the world and murder 8 billion people in a cosmic blast that they will also die in, it's because the older Jim Carrey's granddaughter, I think, was killed, and now he wants to commit murder-suicide because life isn't worth living. Like, that's real. That's in the movie.
Yes, and the original... Look, in the original Sonic Adventure 2, when the Eclipse... They shut down the Eclipse cannon, and in Last Story, Gerald comes on the screen, and his final message, where he says he's going to destroy the world by having the Eclipse cannon be on a collision course with Earth, where it's going to destroy the Earth by running into it, that is his final thing that he says before he's put to death via a firing squad. In the original Sonic Adventure 2 and in Shadow the Hedgehog, they actually show Maria being shot by one of the gun soldiers. Now, that didn't happen in this movie. Many of us didn't really think it was going to happen. It was kind of a meme. Sunset City had #CapThatKid, and their affiliates had #CapThatKid. I was on board with it. I wanted to see it. I didn't really think it was going to happen, but I do like the way that they did that. No, they're not going to show you a kid, getting killed on screen. But they did. I mean, I should say they're not going to show you a kid like being shot on screen. But the way they handled it was still, it still had the gravity of that traumatic event for Shadow and things like that, which was why it was so important. But anyway.
He actually declares his suicidal intention as well. Now, if that seems like weirdly bleak and dark for a kid's movie where the characters bust out impromptu dance routines and randomly break the fourth wall and constantly speak in internet lingo from 2019, there's a lot of that, by the way. Just as one example, at one point, Jim Carrey says, "Damn you, autocorrect." If it seems weirdly bleak and dark for that kind of movie, it's because it is. This is a movie, like so many kids' movies these days, that schizophrenically darts back and forth from being ironic to painfully self-serious to goofy to earnest.
Oh my god, this mentality that Matt Walsh is getting at here is the exact mentality of why we got into what was called by the fan base the meta era, which I don't really think the meta era was a good term for it. I think it was more so the like playing it safe era or the self-deprecation era that we got into in the 2010s, where Sonic wasn't allowed to have serious and more sincere stories anymore because it's a cartoon, it's a stupid hedgehog, who cares about the serious. No, so many of us, myself included, that grew up with like the Sonic Adventure 1 and 2 heroes, Shadow the Hedgehog, '06, all that stuff, like that's what we knew. Sonic X, all that stuff, that's what we knew Sonic as. And hell, there was even Sonic Sat AM in the 90s before that, which was like very much darker and stuff than, well, especially than what fans call what we call AOSTH. This mentality that just because it's animated or because it's a cartoon or whatever, it has to be like goofy and childish or whatever. No, that's bullshit. Sonic is, and there are great like video essays and stuff on this, Sonic is shonen. Sonic is a superhero type of story. Sonic is action, adventure. Yes, he's an animated anthropomorphic hedgehog, but the characters, no, they don't need like a ton of melodrama all the time, but a level of sincerity and taking care of these characters and expanding the world and really like telling stories that matter is really important to a lot of people like myself. So this mentality that I know Matt's about to get into is going to drive me insane. Let's get into it though.
And so on and so on. It doesn't try to smooth over these tonal transitions with good writing or performances. The writing is just terrible, and the
No, it's not.
performances are atrocious across the board.
Can you give any examples, Matt?
Instead, it just flings it all against the wall haphazardly, because these are all bullet points that the movie studio knows it has to hit. Because this movie, again, like so many kids' movies these days, is not the fulfillment of anyone's creative vision.
Untrue.
It is just the product of a corporate algorithm. It is loud and ugly and obnoxious and disjointed because nobody who made the film actually cared about making a good film. And
I'm really surprised he's not calling it woke. I guess he doesn't really have any reason to call it. Well, I mean, it's pretty strong anti-government, imperialist sentiment against gun, but go off, I guess. No, the idea that this had no passion or anything in it. The director Jeff Fowler, whose first work was the opening of the Shadow the Hedgehog video game, that was his first like cutscene he directed. Um, is extremely passionate about this, and so are many of the You cannot tell me there is no passion going into this when we had things like, not over the top, but references to the games. There's a scene where Sonic and Tails and Knuckles jump out of a helicopter, and Sonic delivers the iconic opening line from Sonic Adventure 2, where he says, talk about low-budget flights, no food or movies, I'm out of here. Now, well, he says we're out of here, because it's all three of them. Now, he doesn't say I like running better, but still, they didn't go the whole angle where they mistake Sonic for Shadow or anything like that, but, much of this did stay very true to the source material, and is a really good example, I think, of how to adapt something like a video game into a movie form, because fans of the Sonic franchise have understood for a long time that SA2 was like very cinematic in and of itself anyway, and it just made sense to make it a movie. So the fact that they did only makes sense. But all of this, like, what Matt is getting at here, the mentality he's ultimately reaching, where it's like, oh, it can't be serious, it can't be, have any, sincerity, because it's just a stupid cartoon movie. It's not. Like, it hurts. It hurts as a fan. It hurts. And to say that, like, oh, no one cared about making something good. No, they did. Like, there was so much love and care put into this for the fans like myself, but also just for people that enjoy good movies and good characters. There are people, I didn't do this, but there are people who teared up about, like, things that happened to Shadow or Sonic, or things that they said, and the relationship with Maria, and all, which, by the way, this is the most fleshed out we have seen Maria in any official capacity. I know there are fan works, and there's that, like, I think there's like that manga or something that someone did of Shadow and Maria or something, but like for the most part, we haven't really seen much of Maria's character in an official capacity. And we really got to see her relationship with Shadow more, and how they kind of, like, why she meant so much to him and stuff, and their first meeting, and all these different things. Characters' motivations are clear. The story, the pacing, everything, like, the pacing is a lot quicker than the first or second movie. I wouldn't say it's like breakneck or it's too fast or anything. It's good pacing. It's good storytelling. It is good writing. I mean, there are some things that I don't love, like, people have been shitting on it, and I'm not a fan either of the konnichiwa joke. Like, what? Like, that's okay. But, like, yeah, there's gonna be cringe moments. The dance scene, not nearly as bad as the wedding scene, but, like, it's fine. It was much better than not Harlem Shake. What did Sonic and Tails dance to? The Bruno Mars song, the one that's like, too hot, hot damn, make a dragon wanna retire, man. I don't know, whatever that song is. I'm trying to think of the titles. It doesn't matter. Their little dance scene in Siberia. The scene of Robotnik and, I should say, Ivo and Gerald dancing together was nothing compared to that. And yeah, sure, there were some goofy moments, and I didn't like the way Gerald was handled in the beginning, but it is done as like a bait and switch so that you don't really see what's going on, and then when the penny drops, you're like, oh shit, that's what's really happening here. It's classic, and sure, it's formulaic, but like, dude, hasn't someone like Matt Walsh ever heard of the mentality that, like, every story's ever been written, every song's been sung, every etc. Like, you have the hero's journey, you have, like, a few different ways that especially Hollywood likes to tell a story in a 3-act structure. Yeah, it's formulaic, but, like, every movie, everything is. Just because it's, like, following a formula doesn't mean it's bad. Completely untrue. We do have stuff being made by AI, and I can tell you, nothing in this is anything like any shit AI would create. I mean, this was to insinuate that there was no heart or care put into this is just completely asinine.
have absolutely no respect for their audience. I mean, this movie could have been made by AI. We are at a point. If they start making movies with AI, we would not know the difference because they've effectively been doing that for 20 years now. Now, you might respond here, as many people on Twitter did after I gave a very brief review of this film in a tweet on the site a few days ago.
Oh, bro, he calls it Twitter. He doesn't, dude, no one calls it X. No one calls it X. Like, I love it. I love when people like this even call it Twitter.
You might respond that, well, this movie isn't for me. It's for kids. Well, first of all, tell that to the other people in the theater with us. I can tell you that my kids were by far the youngest people in attendance. There were multiple groups of adults. Just adults, no kids.
Yeah. When I went, most of the people in the audience were also adults, probably fellow Sonic fans. I know there were fellow Sonic fans. There were people like dressed up as the characters and stuff. I didn't dress up as anybody. My buddy and I, we didn't dress up. We kind of unintentionally, I guess, color coordinated because I was like wearing some black and red, and I had white shoes, which kind of like Shadow, and he was wearing not red but like brown shoes, and he was wearing all blue. So in a way, we were kind of like Sonic and Shadow. But color coordinated. Which, by the way, you see that kind of thing on like the red carpet and stuff all the time. It's why like Zendaya wore that like webbing themed dress for the Spider-Man, or why like you'll see people wear different colored suits and stuff as to be thematic with the movie or whatever it is that they're promoting or they're in or whatever, but not going over the top as to wear like the character on your person or something. And I think that subtlety is a really good way to do those kind of things. I love that stuff. So anyway, I'm just I don't know where I'm going with this. But no, it was primarily adults in my theater for sure. And we didn't cheer when Maria died, no matter how funny the meme is.
Whole groups of them who bought tickets to Sonic the Hedgehog 3. Also, tell it to the multiple grown adults who got angry at me on Twitter for not liking the movie. The funny thing is that a lot of those same people say, well, it's not for you, it's for kids. Why are you getting so upset about it then? Why are you tearfully defending a movie that you claim is not for you either? Okay, I really hate the mentality, and people do this shit all the time where they'll say, well, you don't like that because it's not for you. And like, okay, on one hand, I get it, but at the same time, I think everything is open to, criticism and discussion about to anybody, right? Like, on one hand, you can say, well, it's not for you, but on the other hand, it's like, all right, but if it exists in the public, then it kind of is for me. It's for anybody to see, So I never really liked that mentality, but I will say, and it's so funny because like his thumbnail here said, kids deserve good movies, which he's right, and Sonic 3 is a good movie. When people say things like how, kids deserve better, we're talking about this kind of stuff. There had been a push in the 2010s, especially, I would say, to kind of like dumb down a lot of stuff for kids. Like if it was for kids, if it was a movie, a TV show, cartoon, whatever, then it would like, oh, it doesn't have to like matter because it's for stupid kids. Like, whereas the reality is no, there is stuff that like, like for example, Avatar: The Last Airbender is for kids, but like I would say anybody of any age like can and should watch that TV series. It's so incredibly good. It absolutely holds up to this day. Legend of Korra and all that, like it's pretty good too. It's not I am talking about the animated one, by the way. The Netflix show is okay. It's not great. It didn't like break my heart or anything, but it's not fantastic. But yes, kids do deserve good media, but this is an example of that good media. Something that's has more sincerity and care and stuff put into it from the people that created it, which this movie absolutely did. I don't know what Matt's on about here. In fact, one person told me that my negative comments had upset, and I'm repeating this phrase verbatim, had upset the, quote, Sonic community. Now, those are not kids who identify themselves as members of the Sonic community.
He's right. Those are people in their 20s and 30s who love the blue blur. He's absolutely correct.
My 8-year-old loves Sonic, but he's not on Twitter furiously defending the Sonic community from its detractors. So I agree that these kinds of movies are for kids, but I'm not the one who needs to be told that, okay? Second, and this is most important, and it shouldn't need to be explained, but really it does, and that's really...
I will say, by the way, I also really hate the idea that, like, because something's for kids or whatever, like that means adults can't enjoy or critique it or whatever. I also don't. I would disagree that Sonic, especially, and a lot of these things that people say are like for kids, aren't necessarily for kids. I think there's a big difference between family-friendly content and content that is made for kids specifically. I think most people understand that. I think even YouTube understands that, because that's why when you make a video, you have to mark if it's for kids or not, because but it also can't be like age restricted, and then it's not family friendly. So you want to kind of, toe that line a little bit. And it's the same thing with this kind of stuff. It's not for kids. It's family friendly. Dora the Explorer is for kids. The animated one, at least. I don't really... the live action one, I think, is PG. So, and I know it has, like, an adult Dora or, like, young adult something. So I think it's, like, not necessarily for kids. But, something that's for kids is, like, I don't know, like Bubble Guppies or something. Something from, like, Nick Jr. or, like, I don't know, Disney Junior, like one of those, you know what I mean, something like that, right? But something that is family friendly and is for all audiences, or in this case is PG, is not for kids. It's for general audiences. It's for anybody. So like, what are we talking about here?
My only point here, it is possible to make a children's movie that, although it's for children, is still a good, high quality piece of art.
You're right, and that's exactly what this movie was. Continue.
I don't hate children's movies just because they're for children. Quite the opposite. As a father of 6, I've watched...
Father of Jesus Christ, dude. 6? God damn. Hope the dude got snipped by now.
Many children's movies. Okay, I've watched way more than the average person because I have so many kids. And I greatly appreciate the good ones. A few nights ago, just as an example, we watched the movie Iron Giant with my kids, and
that is a great movie.
That's an animated children's film. It's also well-written, beautifully illustrated, brilliantly performed, tonally consistent. It's funny and heartwarming, and at points it's sad, but it works all of that in a way that feels natural to the story. It's a children's film, and it's also a great film.
It's not a children's film. It's a family-friendly film for all audience. There's a big fucking difference. We're not talking about some preschool learn your ABCs as Sonic attacks, like, Eggman's robots or something. We're talking about, like... All right, whatever.
One that I can watch and also enjoy. Because as it turns out, children's...
And you could have done that with Sonic... All right, whatever.
Movies are not just for children. They're for parents, too. Or at least they should be.
Yes. I don't remember. Wasn't there... I'm pretty sure... I don't remember off the top of my head, but I'm pretty sure there was, like an adult... Like, 1 or 2, maybe 3 or so, like... Oh, no! There were a few adult jokes in the Sonic 3 movie. There was one, I'm sure Matt Walsh would have loved this one even, where Gerald, because he's so old, he sees a female, gun agent, and, and they're all, like, ambushed by them, and, Ivo's like, oh god, I can't believe it, and Gerald's like, I know, they let women in the military? So, like, there's, like, stupid, like, and of course that kind of, I don't want to, like, explain the joke, but fucking I'm going to. Of course, the joke there is that for, him being so old and removed from, like, anything that happened outside of him effectively, the joke is he's, like, an old crotchety, like, boomer and probably older. Although, I don't know, in this, so in SA2, because everything with Gerald and Maria and all that happened 50 years ago, in SA2, it was, it must have taken place in the 50s, because SA1 came out in 2001, SA2 came out in 2001, SA1 came out in 1998, well, in Japan it came out in 1998, I'm getting ahead of myself, or did it come out in, like, whatever, it doesn't matter, but this one, in the Sonic 3 movie, whatever, all of that stuff with Gerald and the Ark and Maria and all that takes place in the 70s, 50 years from now, or 50 years before now, so I think he still would have been a boomer. He might have, you know what? He would have been a boomer now. He wouldn't have been a boomer back then. He would have been part of, I think, the greatest generation, as it's called. Anyway, I'm getting off track. Point is, there were jokes like that were for the audience. Like, a kid's not going to understand that. Like, Why is it funny that like this old guy said, "Oh, there's women in the military"? That's weird. Like that was for adults. Like that's an adult joke. You know, I think there were more like kind of risque adult jokes too, from what I remember, at least like one or something. But whatever.
Okay, if a kid's movie or kid show is so grating and so dumb and so unpleasant that parents can't stand to be in the same room while it's on,
It's a good thing Sonic wasn't any of those things. In fact, it was the opposite of those things. But go off.
that doesn't mean it's for kids. It isn't for kids. It isn't for anyone. It's just bad. And the fact that people say, well, of course it's bad, it's for kids, tells you everything you need to know about our culture. They act like it's ridiculous to expect the content produced for kids to be high quality or to have any artistic merit whatsoever. But I tend to think exactly the opposite. I think content produced for kids should especially be high quality and should.
I agree. Is this going to be some bullshit about like, and that's why we have our Daily Wire kids, like Daily Wire Plus app where kids can like watch wholesome content or whatever? Is this going to be an ad for that?
Especially have artistic merit, which is why I hated Sonic the Hedgehog 3 and why it is today, I must say, sadly, canceled. Hey, YouTube, thanks for listening to the show. If you'd like access to my full show with no ads, you should go to dailywire.com, use promo code Walsh to get 2 months free on all annual plans. See you there.
Okay. I know Daily Wire, or am I thinking PragerU that does the kids? Oh no, it's PragerU that does the kids, like, indoctrination, animated stuff. With, like, it has, like, that brother and sister where, like, the sister has pink hair, the brother has blue. It doesn't matter. It's all conservative propaganda. But, I mean, that's what the Daily Wire is. You know, what do you expect? First of all, I'm impressed that Matt did not call Sonic or anything woke, even though the Sonic franchise is absolutely woke. And like the Sonic characters and everything, like anti-environmentalism, anti-imperialism, you know, going against this like, you know, kind of, you know, this guy that like wants to rule the world with technology and stuff, which are kind of like what our wannabe oligarchs are very much doing now. You know, I mean, I'm kind of surprised he didn't go in that kind of direction, but you know, so I applaud you, Matt, for that at least. But funnily enough, we have the comments to look at, and Sonic fans are not having this bullshit from Matt. I wasn't paying attention to the movie, so why are you complaining about it? Exactly. Matt, not a Sonic fan. Nobody who made the film actually cared about making a good film, and they had absolutely no respect for the audience. Sonic fans, this film is an excellent adaptation from one of our favorite storylines. Really makes us feel respected by the filmmakers. Exactly. Matt has absolutely no idea what he's talking about here. The Sonic films are akin to Marvel fans finally receiving good movies and storylines featuring their favorite characters. Comic books were a thing for kids for so long, but those kids grew up and made those films. And more importantly, went to see the movies with their kids. No, it's not Shakespeare, but these films have a story to tell and positive messages under the hood, which is more than I can say about the Mario movie, which was just characters wiggling on a screen for 90 minutes, but that's an opinion for another comment section. Honestly, I will say, yeah, as far as like characters and stuff go, like the reason I say Mario was a better, like, I'm talking about like the adaptation, from an adaptation standpoint, the Mario was a better like video game movie, but from a standpoint of like being a film with like heart and character and like a good message and all that, Sonic has always trumped Mario on that. But the character of Sonic and the characterization and the messages and all that of Sonic in general have always been really good. And again, I really want to get into this, but like I'm gonna be spoiling, and if you haven't seen the film, please see the film. I don't want to spoil it, so I want to get into it. I really do, but I'm not going to. I'll just say one of the core messages is about like dealing with trauma and moving on from it, which is an incredibly important message that people need to hear, and it's a very good message for kids to hear and to be able to internalize at a young age as well. I'm 44 and can't wait for Sonic 4 based. Anyone calling this? Wait, am I okay? Anyone calling the Sonic movie children's movies is silly. They're family movies that anyone can enjoy. Exactly. Lost me at Eggman's dancing makes no narrative sense. Eggman in any media has always been goofy. This was more of complaining out of a disinterest other than a review. Yeah, no, I mean 100%. Yeah, so yeah, Eggman's always been goofy. He's always had like this vibe about him where like, and it's funny because like he has moments where he can kind of switch on a dime, where he can be like really goofy and shit. And Sonic Adventure 2 is a great example of this. Then he can also be just deadly serious. I mean, there's a scene in Sonic Adventure 2 where he literally like holds Amy at gunpoint, which again is what this was based off of, where he holds Amy at gunpoint and demands that Sonic give him an emerald. Where once Sonic does so, he traps Sonic in a capsule that he sends to Earth, intending for him to blow up on his way to Earth. And it's just this incredibly, like, very menacing. Yeah, like, SA2 was dark. And so much of, like, the early... I mean, in Sonic 06, Mephiles kills Sonic, like, out of the blue. There's a lot of dark shit that happens in a lot of the Sonic, especially the 3D games of, like, the 2000s and stuff. Hopefully there's fellow geeks here like me. This movie should definitely be celebrated as a win. This is one of the very few movies that listened to the fans and gave them what they wanted. It also tries to stay close to the source material, very, very rare. No complaints there. I love Sonic 3. 100%. As someone who is right-wing, Sonic community, please cook this man. He's just yapping. No, 100%. Yeah. I think Matt hates everything he isn't involved in. Ego crashing hard with this one. Sonic isn't a bad movie. I don't. Yeah, Sonic community is gonna have a field day with this one. Still gonna take my son. Matt's review credibility is tainted after he tarnished The Dark Knight. When did he do? I mean, I'll save my thoughts on The Dark Knight for another time. I'll just say I don't love it, and there's a really good video essay by Anthony Guri, oh god, I don't remember his name. Let me see if I can just find it. Is it this? Yeah, The Dark Knight Ruined Modern Batman. Yeah, I mean, yeah. I don't really like Dark Knight Batman, so I mean, I get it. But I will say just real quick on that note, I've found that I don't really like Batman, like, in the movies in general. I mean, I did like the Batman, the 2022 movie. But I really only like him in the comics and the, like, animated movies and shows more than anything. I don't really care for any live action Batman. But, but I will say, there are plenty of people who definitely have this error, this idea that anything that's animated or has animation in it is for kids and therefore is not, like, worthy of being, like, proper cinema or some bullshit like that. Which is probably why this movie, for example, got snubbed from the Oscars. Not that it really matters, because, like, I mean, personally, I don't really give a fuck about, like, award shows and stuff or what mainstream critics have to say. I care way more about, like, general audience reception and stuff like that. And for something like this, what the fans have to say about this. And as far as that stuff is concerned, again, like, fans, non-fans, we're all loving this movie. It is an incredibly good film, and I really want to talk about it more and spoil it, but, like, I don't want to ruin it for anybody that hasn't seen it, and I really want you guys to see it if you haven't. And yeah, but no, Matt is so far off base here. It's really interesting. You know, we have this thing happen where when there's new media, especially like this, that becomes popular, you have, culture warriors just latch onto it and try to find something wrong with it, right? And I think a lot of what that is to kind of, like, boost their own, I don't know, their own credibility, just latch onto something that's popular and talk shit about it or whatever. But the thing is, this isn't like, Sonic is not in a state, especially now, like other properties, where you can successfully, where grifters can successfully latch on to that, because the fans aren't having it. We love this stuff. We love these movies. Non-fans love these movies. Look, are there things that could be better? Are there things that could be more accurate? Do I wish there were more characters? Do I wish there were fucking female Sonic characters finally there? So, like, for one, girls watching this could see themselves in those characters too, like Amy. I don't expect Rouge to come in for obvious reasons, but, like, I mean, Amy's really the only, like, big one they have. I'd like to see someone like Sally or Wave the Swallow or Shara or something, or so I'm not holding my breath. But you know, is it the are these the Sonic movies that I would have personally wanted? No. But are they still really good and really good for fans like myself? Yes. And they're really good for general audiences, which is ultimately what matters with these things. These movies are great. People like Matt Walsh are just bitching. They have no ground to stand on. They even admit that. So I mean, just I don't know. It's ridiculous. It's absolutely ridiculous. But yeah, no, the fans aren't having it. We so far have not let, and I don't think are going to let, grifters grift on Sonic because, for one, much of the Sonic fan base is pretty left leaning. There's also a lot of it that's pretty autistic as well, so take that as you will. But so I don't think we're gonna let right wing grifters or any other kind of grifters jump on these things because fuck you guys. You know what I mean? There are things that we might not like and things that we critique, and trust me, the fan base has its issues. But I think we're doing pretty good holding our own against people like Matt Walsh and others that want to kind of, be these culture tourists and kind of just grift off these things. So anyway, like I said, if you haven't seen the movie, it's absolutely incredible. I really want to get into it more, but I would be getting into spoilers, and this isn't a rambling review. That'll come way later in the future. This is specifically a just kind of responding to Matt's criticisms here. So if you haven't seen the movie, give it a shot. Don't let Matt or anyone else. And if someone tries to tell you oh, Mufasa's better or whatever, I don't know, laugh. You can probably just laugh at them. But I don't know. Look, I haven't seen Mufasa. I'm just glad that Sonic is getting respect and kind of being on top again in some way, and I think that's great. So I'm gonna relish in that as I can, considering growing up, Sonic was the butt of so many jokes for he was hated in general throughout even nerd culture and stuff, and I remember even elementary school and stuff, people would make fun of Sonic and in a way make fun of me for liking. Anyway, I have deep seated I'm really glad that Sonic is being successful and culturally relevant again. I'm very happy about that. So again, definitely see the movie. But yeah, don't listen to Matt or other haters like this. They really don't know what they're talking about. So give it a shot. And as always, guys, these are just my thoughts. Let me know what yours are in the comments down below. Follow me on social media for more. Subscribe and ring the bell to stay up to date. Leave a like if you like. And if not, I hope you find something you do like. Later, guys. Peace and love.